this is, I think, fascinating to me because the influence of the Asian culture permeates the U.S. culture, and a lot of people are not aware of it. It's not just the old Carradine Kung Fu movie that started this. It goes way back, even much further than this, and there's so much to it. Starting with, of course, the concept of traditional Chinese medicine, moving on through the martial arts, and art itself, architecture, you name it. There's an influence somewhere that contributes to the foundation and the incredible beauty of the what do I call it, mosaic that is the United States. And we have some wonderful, interesting guest speakers who are here. So I'll let you guys introduce yourself. Han, why don't you start out?
Okay, I'm Hon Lee, and I'm so honored to be here today to talk with you.
Okay. And Henry.
I'm Henry Shang. I'm one of the assistant instructors with Stefan being the instructor down in Virginia in Chen Tai Chi.
Okay, there are some other people here that, you know, if you feel like participating or you have a question or something you want to discuss and or contribute to, please feel free to do so. Frances is there. She'll let you know if you're speaking without your mic on or something of that nature. But we asked for the mic off because, as you heard, sometimes you can get some extraneous noises. So I apologize for that. This is a fascinating topic. So, Han, why don't you give us a little bit of your background and what your feelings are on this month of AAIP and the importance of it?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. When Stefan invited me to speak tonight, I was very honored. And he said my topic would be about Tai Chi and Qigong.
Okay.
So my earliest recollections of Tai Chi and Qigong, actually the Chinese martial arts, and even Chinese medicine. My fascination began as a kid growing up in New York's Chinatown. I went to a very rough neighborhood in the Lower East Side, and I got into a lot of scrapes. I got into a lot of street fights. So I'd come home black and blue. My mother thought I was a juvenile delinquent, which in many wasn't far from the truth. And my face was all swollen and puffy from all the fights I got into. And my uncle, he claimed to know Chinese medicine and Chinese martial arts, and he actually applied what we call di da jiao, or in Mandarin is de da jiu, which is Chinese liniment. Healing liniment. In fact, each martial arts school has their own secret formulas, and my uncle made up a batch, and we would have jugs of this stuff at home. I needed it. But he also claimed to be a Kung Fu guy. He said, "Yeah, I'll teach you some Kung Fu." So I said, "Okay." So he taught me how to squat in a horse stance for about, until my legs started shaking, but he taught me how to punch and kick. So, but I was never really serious about Uncle Henry because he just didn't look like the guys I saw at the Sun Sing Theater in East Broadway. Henry might be familiar with that place. Anyway, I wanted to be like those martial arts heroes that they could leap over tall buildings with a single bound and catch flies with chopsticks. I'm still working on that one. Anyway, I didn't take it seriously, and so it wasn't until I got to high school that I started taking formal classes, but it wasn't in Chinese martial arts. It was in Japanese martial arts because the Japanese were very well organized and they had good instructors and they seemed to um, be very good at what they were doing. So plus they issued colored belts that were always appeal to kids, right? Anyway, I continued my training in different martial arts in college and also in the Marine Corps. You know, the Marine Corps was a place that valued physical fitness. So during the day, they would give you time off. In fact, it was required that you would have to do some sort of physical activity, you know, just to stay in shape. So I hooked up with a bunch of people. They were much better than me, including people from New York. I won't bother to talk about them unless we have some time, but they were very influential in my fascination with Chinese martial arts because my instructor at the time at Camp Pendleton, he was a Bruce Lee fanatic, and he would go to uh, Los Angeles, Chinatown, walk around just on the off chance that he would be able to meet Bruce Lee. I had never heard of Bruce Lee. I never watched any movies and TV shows about Bruce Lee, but that was kind of fascinating. But it wasn't until I left the Marine Corps and I got a job at the CIA that I came to Washington, D.C. And I was walking down the streets of DC Chinatown, and I came across a sign. It said Kung Fu Karate. Now, there was a punky looking guy in front of the store, and I said, "What is Kung Fu Karate?" And he said, "Well, nobody knows about Kung Fu because they think it's something you eat at a Chinese restaurant." So we added karate because people would know, you know, karate. Anyway, he said, "Come back tomorrow and if you want to join." So I did, and that's the start of a love infatuation with Chinese martial arts. The school was started by Dean Chin, who brought Jow Ga Kung Fu to the U.S. and he opened the doors to anyone who wanted to learn. So we had people of all colors and nationalities join Jow Ga Kung Fu. He was really ahead of his time. He had the first full contact tournament in Washington, D.C. So that was my early training.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm sorry I just logged on right now. I was having some technical snafus over here, so I missed the first few minutes. But I just want to welcome Dr. Hon Lee, and already I see the conversation's already kicking off really well. And but I just wanted to just say one thing, not only to think that he's here, but Han, I'm hoping I would love for you, if you didn't do it already, what were your earliest memories of these arts? You've described, I think, in your book and to me, just some of the first views, first things that you saw just growing up in New York Chinatown that left some pretty big seeds inside of you.
Yeah, so my time in New York just planted the seeds and the motivation because as a kid, sometimes, you know, in rough neighborhoods, you always had bullies and you had people who wanted to take advantage of you. So I had to learn how to defend myself. So my earliest experiences were about survival and self-preservation. And so I was more interested in the early days in the martial aspects of the martial arts, and not necessarily the artistry, which I didn't really appreciate until much later.
And so now, so you were in DC, you were working for the government, a junior officer. You joined up the Jow Ga Shaolin Institute. What kind of impact did that have on you? How did that change you, or what was going on inside of you about this? And remember, everybody, this is all happening here in the States. Okay, so go for it. How did this have an impact on you?
Well, it impacted me in several ways, and some of it is cliche. You know, during my younger days, it taught me self-discipline, focus, and how to stay calm when things got rough. But later on in life and throughout my career in the agency, it really, really came in handy during times of stress.
How so? I mean, can you talk about that to some extent?
Yeah. So I was, during the latter part of my career in CIA, I was at CIA headquarters. I had spent roughly 20 years overseas, and during that time, I had the chance to live and work in different countries, including Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, and China. And so every place I went, I always used the opportunity of learning different martial arts, Chinese martial arts, as a way to meet different people and create friendships. So that was a real positive thing. But in my later years, as I got into the senior ranks of the agency, something traumatic happened to me, and it was a period of emotional turmoil. And so I can frankly say that if it wasn't for martial arts, I wouldn't be here, and I would probably have gone bonkers.
So what was it? Yeah, so Hon, so what was it about these arts? So what is it about these arts that saved you, especially psychologically like that? Because nowadays, as more studies come out about the benefits of this stuff, particularly Tai Chi, which is a martial art, there's more and more evidence pointing to how this helps people psychologically, emotionally. So yeah, talk about that, especially with intensive job, going through a really tough time at that moment.
Yeah.
What was it? Yeah.
Yeah, if it hadn't been for the martial arts, I wouldn't have had a chance to let go of my pent-up frustrations during that very crucial period in my life. But working out with my martial arts brother, Reza Momenon, who it provided a critical safety valve, because Reza and we partnered to preserve our teacher's legacy, Dean Chin's legacy, and we eventually opened up a martial arts school. But at the same time, during this period, I was fortunate enough to meet Stefan. Stefan, I knew was a great teacher in Chen style Tai Chi. So it provided another outlet for me. I knew that he was also a protege of a very well-known master, right? We all know him, Ren Guangyi. And I had actually purchased Ren Guangyi's DVD videos years before I met Stefan. So I thought it was our fate to meet. And so I immediately enrolled in Stefan's Tai Chi class. And the rest is history.
So,
But learning a new style was I was able to take my mind off my worries and focus, mentally focus. As you know, as you all know, if you practice Tai Chi, and if you have a good instructor, you have to focus and you have to pay attention to what you're doing. That's exactly what helped me restore my mental and physical balance.
and what was it? So, Han, I appreciate all of that, and those memories are amazing. But what was it about the Tai Chi in particular? Because you'd spent up until that time, you were doing other types of martial art, still do some of that martial art. But what was it about the Tai Chi that was calling you, and that did something for you?
Yeah, so I can explain it to you from Chinese medicine perspective, because
please.
As you all know, since most of you are Tai Chi practitioners, right? Am I wrong or right?
Yeah, for the most part, of different levels. So right now we have a bunch of people from different levels here.
So just to go over the basics, you know that the creator of Chen style Tai Chi was a martial arts master, but he also incorporated the principles of yin and yang, the five element theory, and Bagua, and he designed the movement so that it would create a movement of qi through your qi channels. In Chinese medicine, we say that when there is a blockage of qi, if there's a lack of qi movement, by qi, we're talking about not just energy, but information and subtle life force. So the flow of information through your energy channels is the road to good health, the road to balance. So in Tai Chi, the creator of Tai Chi created these movements, and that you've all practiced or you're practicing is a great form of one form of Qigong, and that is one form of energy medicine. In fact, when you practice Tai Chi, you're actually practicing one of the highest forms of energy medicine and healing. So that's what makes it so powerful, which is really unrecognized by Western medicine. Because there's this difference between just purely physical medicine and energy medicine. So I practice a form of Chinese medicine that's called Taoist medicine. And in Taoist medicine, the lowest, it's on a hierarchical rung. The lowest is actually acupuncture. The next level is body work, including we call Tui Na and Anmo, body massage. The third level, higher than those two, Chinese herbs. The fourth level is nutrition. The fifth level and the highest is Qigong, which includes meditation. So by doing Tai Chi, you're actually doing the highest form of medicine.
See, that's a powerful and important point to be made. And this is where you've ended up now. So you focus most of your own personal practice, Tai Chi, Qigong, some of the other martial art, like I know sword, of course. So where are you at right now with this? So what are you getting the most benefit out of? Just simply, where are you at now with these practices?
Yeah, let me answer that in a roundabout way, because I got to Chinese medicine. Many people think it's kind of a crooked path, but actually it was martial arts was a doorway to Chinese medicine, because in many martial arts traditions, there's a code of ethics. And the code is that if you know how to hurt somebody, you're obliged to know how to heal them. So the founders of the Jow Ga system, they practiced traumatic injury medicine using the Da and other secret formulas, and as well as the masters that are many of the famous masters in the Mizong system that I study also were Chinese medicine practitioners. So, in fact, I inherited a book, a copy of a manual of deep Da formulas, both for internal consumption and for topical application. And I felt it was my duty to learn Chinese medicine so I would be able to use those formulas appropriately and not poison anybody.
And so
that's
so Han, can you explain what Deep Da is and just make sure everyone's clear about it?
Yeah. Deep Da or De Da in Chinese means hit fall. So when you're hit or when you fall, you're injured. And so it's really about restoring to health the fighters. So a lot of Chinese medicine came actually from applications on a battlefield, which is also true of Western medicine. If you think of emergency medicine on the battlefield, so many of the techniques and the pharmaceuticals came from making sure that people were healthy enough to fight another day. So right now, I'm privileged to be able to help people to restore and to maintain health, because when I was, and a lot of my focus is on helping those who suffer from the wounds, the psychological, emotional, and physical wounds of war. So I'm a provider for the community care program, a VA community care program, and I see a lot of veterans who are going through the VA, and they don't really get much help from the VA. It's improved, but it's nowhere near where it should be. Yeah. So
and so what are the things that you're doing right now? Like, well, what when you're working with these veterans, what are the
yes.
what are the protocols? Is it
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because so many of the veterans who come in, they've seen VA doctors, they've seen doctors in the community, and they're tired of getting all these drugs that make them look and feel like zombies, and it doesn't help.
Mhm.
No, and we have in this country, as you already know, an opioid crisis, right? People are getting drugged up, and then they're getting hooked on these painkillers, which doesn't help. Now, physical medicine can help. Acupuncture and other things can help. So, in fact, when I treat physical pain, to me, it's easy. I can do it. I can get them over the hump. I can relieve their pain, and they can go about their daily lives. But the pain might come back. The pain might come back because there's a deeper, more emotional, spiritual, and psychological component that is its own. Western medicine only pays lip service to helping people. They can do it through physical medicine and they can drug them up, but it doesn't work. Complete healing doesn't work unless you address the other parts of our being. So we're more than just physical bodies. We're psychological, emotional, and spiritual bodies. So that's where Qigong comes in. I can address that a little bit more if you want.
Yeah, please talk about that because especially as you're placing Tai Chi as very high form of Qigong, which of course I agree with. But you also practice and teach a form of Qigong that is something that, and correct me if I'm wrong, really emerged here in the United States based on, of course, old practices, old Chinese practices, and I know you're using that increasingly, and you actually really like the practice. And it is everybody, just so you understand, Qigong, as a form of, if you want to call it internal exercise, Tai Chi, a form of martial art that trains you from the inside or from the bottom up first. It's not from the outside in, inside out, so to speak. And you can define it in different ways. But yeah, but Hon, if you can talk about that a bit, and how is it that these practices, in particular the Qigong you practice, really has helped people and help veterans, and what is it about the practice that seems to do the trick?
Okay, well, I can give you I tell you a little story about how I came into learning about what's called Spring Forest Qigong. It's the creation of Qigong master Hon Lee. So he's been in the States for some time now, and he's a U.S. citizen now. And he's based in the Twin Cities. So when I first started my practice, I wasn't that busy. And I knew Qigong. I had to take a Qigong class in acupuncture school. Before that, I did hard Qigong. I did Qigong so I could try to leap over tall buildings with a single bound and be a more powerful martial arts master and really kick ass. But I didn't really learn that Qigong could be used for healing. So as many of you know, Qigong can be characterized by martial arts Qigong. It can be and essentially that's what you're doing when you're doing silk reeling, right? You're doing a form of martial arts Qigong, and Stefan has taught Qigong to you. But so there's martial Qigong, which you know about. There's Taoist and Buddhist Qigong. They have different perspectives. One is to reach a state of enlightenment. Another one, the Taoists are very practical, to reach, to put it as part of a longevity practice, which we call it's a part of a long tradition of yang sheng, or nourishing life practices, which actually includes a lot of different Qigong techniques, including sexual techniques, which I won't have time to go into today. It's another couple of hours lecture. But anyway, then there is healing Qigong or medical Qigong, and there are a lot of varieties of that, which also include, so I learned medical Qigong a little bit, cursory knowledge in acupuncture school, but that really fascinated me. And so as I learned some of the techniques, when I started my practice, wasn't that busy, and I would show patients how to do some movements so that they would be able to do them at home and sort of complement what I was doing for them in the clinic. But as I got more busy, I needed to find something that they could learn by themselves. So I Googled certain self-study courses, and I tried them out myself, and one of them was from Hon Lee. And what got my attention was, he said, you don't have to marry the teacher's daughter to get the secrets of Qigong. I can show you how to be a healer. I was a healer and you were a healer too. All right, so that piqued my interest. So I sent for his program, and I tried what's called the small universe meditation, which in traditional jargon, it's known as a microcosmic orbit meditation. Maybe some of you know it. Essentially, it's about moving your qi through your front and back channels, your Ren channel and your Du channel, right? So you move it through different aspects of your body so you can build up your qi reserve. So your qi reserve is like a battery that you can tap in when you're under stress. And it's really beautiful. But I had practiced small universe meditation with other instructors, and sometimes I could feel the movement, sometimes I could feel the qi, and sometimes they wouldn't. You know, it was just hit or miss. But the first time I tried it with Trini Lin, I felt the sensations right away, and that got me hooked. So a woman came in, a new patient, and she was on multiple antidepressants. She could no longer ride her bike, which was her real source of enjoyment, and she was going through a painful divorce, and she was deeply depressed, and she had lower back pain and other issues, and she was just really, really despondent. So I said, and after the acupuncture treatment, I said, look, here's a program. I want you to send for this program, self-study, and give it a try. Okay. So she disappears. I didn't see her for 6 months. And then one day I'm looking out the window of my my office. So my initial clinic is inside a martial arts studio. Stefan knows this. It had a big picture window, right, out to the parking lot. And I see my patient. She's wearing yellow leotards and something like that, and she's got this racing bike, and she drives in and parks a bike and then rushes in and bounds in and so happy with a smile on her face. And she gives me a big hug and she says, thank you so much for introducing me to Spring Forest Qigong. It's changed my life completely. I'm off of all my medications. I have no pains, and this is the best I felt in years. And that's when I I said, I better go to Minnesota and check this guy out. And that's what it took.
And you know what's so striking about this, and it's in a sense, it's the overarching theme of having you here tonight, is that you're doing this here in the States. This amazing teacher is in the States, has been here for a long time. You've been here for a long time. You started your traditional martial arts odyssey in the States. Your earliest memory of, if I remember correctly, about an herbal medicine shop. It's one of the most powerful memories I think you shared with me once, was here in the States, in New York, in Chinatown. So while you have traveled and you spent many years in Asia and you studied with other teachers and all of that, it's amazing how you've got all of this here in the United States, that folks are contributing these arts to our life here. And this also includes your education in acupuncture and herbology and all this other stuff. So can you, reflect on that and talk about that? Because it's important for everybody to understand that this is accessible, which it's especially living in this country.
Yeah, that's certainly the case, Stefan. Not only in martial arts, I think we have it really good here in the States, because if you go to China and you go to Taiwan, you can't just pick and choose and study with any master, because they expect you to pay homage to the teacher you're with, and so you can't just pick up and go to next door to another studio. But here, we have really excellent teachers, and you can pick and choose and select the programs that you want. So this I would say we have a melting pot of martial artists, just like New York is sort of a melting pot or a mixed salad. And so the same is true in Chinese medicine. So in Chinese medicine, if you study in China, you're supposed to pay homage to your teacher and not go off the beaten track and find another master, right? Because people, you'll have a reputation of, jumping ship. But here in the US, some of the best teachers I have in Chinese medicine aren't Chinese. Just like some of the best martial artists and teachers I've had aren't Chinese, right? Stefan is a case in point. And so we have a richness here in America. So many of my the people that I follow in Chinese medicine have been Americans. They might have been trained in China, but they brought back with them that knowledge and expertise and made it their own. And so I'm real proud of what we've done here in America, and I'm real happy with the access that we have to really great teachers.
And that reminds me, Han, also you mentioned your longtime training brother and partner when you set up the school, Jow Ga Shaolin Institute, Reza, who is not Chinese, who is Persian American, but who has devoted himself to this stuff and to such an extent that he upholds it in a certain way. And that really is best done here in this country. So it's amazing. Han, do you have, Han, we can go on all night with this, but is there anything else? Is there any kind of a message that you'd like to share with everybody? You gave us a lot of powerful messages tonight, but is there anything else that you'd like to share with the folks here? Because we have folks on the call who are beginners to Tai Chi. Some of them have done some Qigong. We have folks who have a lot of experience. Anything at all that you'd like to say?
Well,
before we do Q&A, yeah.
Well, Tai Chi and Qigong are China's gifts to the world. So take advantage of it. Take advantage of every opportunity to learn from good, authentic teachers like Stefan and Master Ren Guangyi. And finally, practice, practice, practice. So in Chinese, we have a saying, 拳不离手, 曲不离口. 拳 means fist of boxing. So your fist, your boxing is never far from your hand. And that means, and so Qu is the lyrics of a martial arts move. So, martial arts in China was traditionally handed down from master to disciple. No one had videos and no one had videotapes and DVDs, and a lot of people were illiterate, and so they handed it down and made it simple to learn by using different phrases, so people could they would be like memory aids. So we call those qu. So the lyrics are never far from your mouth. So that means, what does it mean? Basically, it means practice, practice, practice.
Absolutely. Well, Han, thank you so much for that. Again, there's more to ask, there's more to discuss. Just your whole life in general deserves 3 or 4 or 5 more hours of these. If anybody wants more, let us know. We'll do a part 2. But do any of you have any questions for Dr. Lee at all? Anything at all? And we'd love for you to just do it right here. Anything at all, please. We've got about 20 minutes or so left. We can go longer if need be, but any questions? Anything?
I have a question.
This is Cindy. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm new to this. I'm just coming up on my 4th year with Stefan. And I'm old enough to know that practice is what gives you progress, right? But I also know that in our lives in America, most of us are incredibly busy. Do you happen to have any words of encouragement or wisdom or maybe what you tell your patients? Because practicing on your own is a big part of this. It's not just attending class, right? Once or twice or 3 times a week or whatever. But I find it incredibly hard, no matter how much I want to. I find it really difficult to set aside that time, on a daily basis. But, how do you instruct some of your patients on this,
And,
taking the time to practice?
and Cindy, that's a great question. So Han, if you can, in your answer, can you also reflect on how you dealt with that in your own practice, especially when you were overseas and you were essentially working 2 jobs at the same time? I mean, how did you manage all of that? Because that can, I think, inform a lot of us here. And then, yes, as Cindy's asking specifically, how do you advise people today with that?
Well, Cindy, that's an excellent question. And I would say that you have to schedule the time and put it in and start out small so that at least you make a promise to yourself, okay, if you don't have an hour, how about a half an hour? You don't have a half an hour, how about 15 minutes? You don't have 15 minutes, how about 10 minutes? Okay, so you promise yourself, I'm going to put it on my calendar. This week, I'm going to do 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be a lot, okay? And then as you go, but don't beat yourself up and make yourself feel guilty, because you'll derive the benefits no matter if you try, and you don't have to try real hard, but you have to make that commitment. So that is a key. If you can make the commitment to yourself, look at it as an investment on your health, and then you don't feel guilty if you have to rest a day or you get sick, because some people actually go overboard. Yeah, I've done that, and I've hurt myself because I've tried to work through my pain, which is not a good idea.
And if I can add something to that, there are aids out there to keep you going. Of course, I've got to mention, who we're co-hosting this with, Chi Force. This a website that was started and run by some passionate, generous lovers of this art. One of them is on the call, Alan, right up there, Alan Bandies. And it is a site that is unlike anything else out there, where you can use it to as a reference point, as an inspiration point, and then hopefully in time with more stuff to help you train and help you get going with this, or keep yourself going, if I can say that. And also there are some books out there too. For instance, there is a book that's put out by someone that really one of the pioneers here in the United States of these arts, Bosun Mark. Many of you know that someone that I was closely connected to for many years, and she actually put out a book. It's called Taste of Tai Chi, and it's 12 steps for the busy American life, basically. That's like the subtitle. And it's a book that is just under-recognized, but it's still out there. So there are these things that you can kind of get your hands on and maybe help you with your training. So yeah, Han, I'm sorry, I just had to throw that in there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, what's that?
I don't have a question. I just like to make a comment, and I was very touched by, because as you mentioned, Han, at the beginning of the talk, that you were in the Marines, but what you didn't mention well, this is in connection to your work at the VA hospital, is that you're a Vietnam vet. And I'm actually quite touched by the service that you have provided to this country for your brothers in the Marines, as well as the veterans that are in pain.
Well, I feel that my time in the Marine Corps was a life-changing experience, and the guy who replaced me and the guy I replaced were both killed. And so it wasn't until many years later that I thought that I might be able to give something back. And now, as a healthcare professional, I'm able to give it back and also to mentor other generations of Chinese medicine doctors.
I have a question for Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, also going back to your time in the Marine Corps, now it's easy to find any kind of Asian martial arts everywhere. When you were early in the Marine Corps, you said there was an emphasis on physical training. What did all your Marine brothers know about martial arts, and did they practice any of them?
They really didn't. We had when I was going through Marine Corps training, we had some rudimentary martial arts programs. I will say that now the Marine Corps has instituted what's called a regular martial arts program. It's a synthesis of Japanese martial arts and Taekwondo and kickboxing. And so there are some pretty skilled professional martial artists who headed up the program, because one of the former commandants, when he was in Vietnam, he watched the Korean Marines and how sharp they were and their practice of Korean style martial arts. So he said the Marine Corps needs to implement a formal training. So now Marines, they have the regular, what we call cartridge belt, but underneath their uniform, they're also awarded different colored belts, believe it or not. So they get training during their basic training, as well as they're encouraged for after hours training in martial arts as well. Yeah, when I was in the Marine Corps, we had people who were veterans, and they were trained in Okinawa and also Korea and Japan. So they came back to when I was at Camp Pendleton. So it was really fun to practice with these guys who really knew what they were doing.
And then in your next career, as an intelligence officer, did you find a lot of people doing different things? Any kind of practice at all, whether it's a martial art, meditation, Tai Chi?
Not a lot. I mean, if you go through the training program, I think Stefan might be familiar with that, but we have a place called the Farm. It's actually near Williamsburg. I think it's been publicized in the press that it's our our boot camp for junior officers. You go through there and they teach you skills, clandestine skills, but also firearms training, crashing through and breaking through roadblocks with your car, and as you're firing a 45 or something like that. But the martial arts training is pretty basic. It's just to give people a sense of confidence.
What about folks who are actually like you, people who are really into martial arts or into some kind of these old practices that you knew or could have shared stuff with? No, yes.
Yeah, we did it privately. Martial arts is such a great way to meet people and develop friendships. So wherever I went, I find somebody to practice with.
And Hon, so during this time, was there any thought? Did you have any thought, or were you thinking about, again, Qigong, other than the more hard Qigong or Tai Chi? Was there anything inside of you? It's like that's got to be the next step for me, or this is what I want one day.
Yeah, so in Spring Forest Qigong, we have actually 5 levels of Qigong. And maybe one day I'll explain one of the first levels that is the basic level for self-healing. But we have 5 levels. The second level is about healing other people. You actually learn how to project qi. All of us can do it. There's nothing magic about it. And then the third level is about addressing very, very serious conditions like cancer. And the 4th and 5th levels are very spiritual. We actually learn how to change weather patterns. We learn how to, and the 5th level is very, very spiritual. It's about how we can actually connect with our departed loved ones.
So Hon, in saying that, a lot of folks could respond to that. It was like, hold on here. This is getting a little woo-woo here. How do you respond to that?
Well, you can look at a lot of it explained now through quantum physics. And yeah, it works whether you believe it or not.
Wow. Does anybody have any questions, whether about that or anything else? We just have a few minutes left. Anything else, guys? This is a unique opportunity to to really find out about some other stuff. Anything else?
I've got one for who I feel like I still have to address as Sifu Lee, as a former Jow Ga student. I don't know if you remember, but you actually pointed me about 20 years ago towards Stefan's program. And I think what you told me was I was trying to move too fast for my body structure and that Tai Chi would help me. I wonder if you have anything to say about that in the form of maybe others that are looking to transition from other martial arts styles into Tai Chi.
Yeah, so I think any martial arts, but Tai Chi in particular, you pay attention to the nuances of your movement. Whereas when we're doing hard style martial arts, we're trying to move fast and quickly, and you don't always pay attention to the nuances. In fact, when I was in the Marine Corps, I had a chance to go to Taiwan, and when I was in a student dormitory, I had a chance to learn some Wu style Tai Chi. And so it was very slow movements, and I enjoyed it. But when I got back to the States and I competed in a martial arts sparring tournament, people couldn't believe that I was moving so much faster than I usually did. And I had to think, now why practicing so slow, I was able to move so fast? I didn't know. I didn't know the connection, but it got me to thinking. So it was the ability to be able to relax and then instantaneously change. So I was able to change direction in a relaxed state. So when I say a relaxed state, so all of you know the term 放松, which
not everybody knows, but go ahead.
It doesn't mean to go limp. So there's a misconception that when we say relax, that you go like a wet noodle. In fact, it's the connection with your fascia. So everybody, you know what fascia is, right? It's when you cut a piece of meat open, it's that covering that covers everything and that fascia is the most connective tissue in your system. So when we say fang shuang, it doesn't mean no tension. It means some tension so that your fascia is all connected. When all your fascia is connected, and when one body part moves, the whole body moves, right? Stefan, I'm sure, emphasizes that all the time in your Tai Chi practice.
Absolutely.
So that's a secret. That's the benefit of practicing slow and then really changing to quick to get that explosive force.
And it's actually healthy for you. It's safer for your body. That's the other thing. So as we try to explain this in a sense of word we've been using a lot lately, unveil what it is that makes this special. That's one of the things. Do anybody else have a question? I think we've got one more question coming in.
I have a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Chris.
Hi. Thank you, Hon. This is very insightful. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom. I have a quick question. I should have jumped in earlier when you were sort of talking about your influences earlier in your career, your martial arts exploration. I was just wondering if there were any strong female presences or influences for you during your journey.
I didn't have a female teacher, but I'll tell you a very indirect influence that influenced my motivation for studying Tai Chi. When I was in Vietnam, I had an R&R to Hong Kong, and I took a tour bus around the island, and we stopped at a very scenic spot. And then I looked down at a garden, and I saw a woman there, and she was practicing these slow, graceful movements that I immediately recognized must have been Tai Chi. And it was so beautiful, profoundly beautiful. And I'll never forget that image in my mind. And that was one of my motivations for studying Tai Chi.
That's very romantic. Thank you for sharing. What about in terms of like in the States?
Some of my, well, not my Tai Chi teachers, but my herb teachers and the teachers in medical school, many of them were, my best teachers were women.
Thank you for sharing.
And you know, Han, to that question, you know, I mentioned an influential, pioneering female Tai Chi teacher here in the States, known as Bo Sim Mark, or Bao Ma Tan in Mandarin. We've talked about her before. She's so important. I just wanted, I could have sworn, Han, you once told me some really amazing impressions of her. So it's perfect if you can talk about that stemming from this question that you just got.
Yes. It's so amazing that we're all connected, because I met Bo Sim Mark in Xi'an, China, because I was posted in China during then, and they had the first international invitational traditional Chinese martial arts they called it an exhibition, not tournament, but it was actually a tournament. And in any case, and also let's see, yeah, so many people were there, including Bo Sim Mark, and her daughter was there. I think, Stefan, you know her daughter. Yeah, I didn't.
I do.
I don't think Donnie was there at the time, but she brought a daughter along. And her daughter performed, and Bo Sim Mark performed, and she was so fluid and so graceful. It just was so impressive, and she was I sat at dinner, I shared a dinner table with her, and she was so kind. She had just an angelic Guanyin presence about her. Yeah, it was really, really impressive.
Guan
Wow.
Yin.
Say
Goddess of
that.
Guan Yin, goddess of mercy.
Yes.
Amazing. That's amazing. Wow.
Thank you for sharing.
Han, I know you as a person of sheer determination. Do you believe, and this is just off the cuff, that when you were coming up in the martial arts, in Tai Chi, in Qigong, there wasn't that much information and access. So when you have that burning hunger, is not necessarily satisfied straight away just by Googling something. Can you talk a little bit about that? The perhaps the lack of access drove you to find, to discover, to treasure what you finally arrived at in the martial arts, in Qigong, in Tai Chi.
Yeah, I said I just I thirst. I have an unquenchable thirst to search out the best teachers that I could find and follow follow them around everywhere. And when I find somebody that I really love, I just want to stick with them. One but I've been so fortunate. I'm so grateful for the teachers I've had who are so willing to share their knowledge and experience. And I feel that's really set an example for me to try to do the same and playing it forward.
Wow. Thank you so much. You guys, we're just over the hour a bit. We're happy to take more questions or comments. So I'll just give you 5 seconds or so. Does anybody have anything else to say they'd like to ask of Dr. Hon Lee? And if not, I just want to thank you guys on behalf, just for myself, on behalf of Chief Force. This is, oh yes.
Stefan, I see a familiar face here, and I'd like to introduce you to Wallace Hood. Wallace Hood is a former Marine, a veteran, and also he's in charge of the VA clinic. Would you mind having Wallace introduce himself and say a few words?
Please.
Hey, how you doing, everyone? Yeah, I was just about to say that this is a great lecture, Dr. Hon Lee. I'm honored to be here to watch you in this lecture and join with everyone. Yes, I am a former Marine and a Desert Storm war veteran, and at the front line, Desert Storm. I'm an acupuncture and Chinese medicine doctor as well. I'm a martial artist. So when I was in the Chinese medicine school, I saw an article in Acupuncture Today that Dr. Hon Lee wrote. And I was saying, wow, I was reading the article and I said, man, it's like I was reading my own story, because everything that he's done, I've done, but I didn't do it to the highest level, because I was an enlisted Marine. He was also a retired CIA. I only spent a few years with the federal law enforcement, with the Border Patrol, and but everything was so similar, and martial arts led me to Chinese medicine, just like Dr. Hon Lee was mentioning earlier. But yeah, he's an outstanding gentleman, and I was honored to finally fly down there to Virginia and meet him in person. After I read his book, I was just like, wow, I just got to meet this man. It's like I'm reading about my own self in this book. But yeah, I had a good time when I came down there. He just basically showed me a great time and took me around to the Jow Ga martial arts studio and his clinic and everything like that. And it was just an honor to be there. And I'm looking forward to another meeting with this fellow Marine. And I just like to keep in touch with him. He's just an outstanding gentleman. Yeah.
Thank
That is awesome. Well, good to meet you, and hopefully we can stay in touch, and especially what we're trying to do with Chi Force and everything. I'd love to talk more with you. Thank you for being here. That's great, Han. Thanks for having Wallace here. That's awesome. But you see, guys, you see this. You know, this stuff is, if it's not pretty damn American, it's definitely part of American life. And for us, that's a really important message, and we want to get that across to everybody. Thank you for that, Wallace. That's great. Anybody else?
Wallace is a high-ranking Hapkido expert.
Oh, really? Okay. Hapkido, you guys, that's a Korean martial art. Pretty comprehensive Korean martial art. That's wild. Anything else, guys? You can even ask Wallace a question if you like. Okay, because Wallace, I'm sure, will have a lot to share. I'm certainly stemming from all of Han's work. Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here. A couple of you, I think, did have to leave right at the hour. This conversation, this will be recorded, and we do intend to put it out there, maybe on YouTube, on the Chi Force website in the near future. But please contact any of us if you have any questions about it. And again, my name is Stefan Berwick. There's Alan Bandy's up top, really leader of Chi Force, one of the key leaders of Chi Force. We have Frances Phelps over in the she should be in the upper left-hand corner, who makes sure everything runs properly. And we just are so happy you're here. And Han, thank you so much for being here again. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.